Hey guys, Andrea from the future here. I just wanted to pop in and say, unfortunately during editing I have noticed that I have been pronouncing the name of the mountain wrongly. It is pronounced Kalkajaka, and I've noticed I've said Kalajaka a lot during the video. So I just wanted to say I'm sorry about that, but I'm just way too busy and way too tired to shoot the entire thing again. So every time I say Kalajaka, just please know that I mean Kalkajaka. Please enjoy the video and let's just get on into it. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you are new here. I've noticed quite a few new subscribers in the last few days, so thank you guys so much. You are so appreciated and so welcome here to my channel, and I hope you enjoy the channel and you can have some fun with me. If you are enjoying it, please encourage friends to come and take a look, maybe to subscribe, because that would help me out a ton. So today's video is actually requested by one of my subscribers, so a big shout out to Sideshow Rupert. Thank you so much for suggesting today's location. And again, I'm ashamed to say I've lived in Australia my entire life and I've never heard of this place, so I'm really excited to take you guys exploring with me today to far north Queensland. Now, the location in today's video also has two names. I'm going to be referring to it by the traditional Indigenous name that it was given by the first owners of the land, who we pay much respect to. And it is Kalkajaka National Park, also known by the locals as Black Mountain. Now, Black Mountain is synonymous, or Kalkajaka as I'm going to be referring to it as its proper name, and I really like the Indigenous names that the First Nations people have given all these locations, because, you know, it's fair enough, they were here first and their names are absolutely beautiful. So Kalkajaka National Park. Now, the thing with Kalkajaka National Park is it is synonymous with UFO sightings, strange phenomena and disappearances. It is a very eerie looking place. I've watched a few videos on it over the weekend as I prepared for this video, and it is a very intriguing location. So before we get into today's video, can I please just remind you guys again, if you're watching and you're not subscribed yet, I totally appreciate everybody who's watching and I love you guys so much, but it helps me out even more if you can press the subscribe button. You don't have to watch every video, you can just watch videos that you're interested in. That's fine, everybody's welcome here, but it just helps me out in getting to my goal of 1,000 subscribers. So you guys really do a lot for us creators here on YouTube, and I just want to thank you all so much. But if you could take a minute to hit subscribe, maybe leave a nice comment in the comment section below if you enjoyed the video, or if you have your own theories on what we're going to be exploring today, or if you have a location that you would like me to feature in a future video, as Sideshow Rupert did, then please let me know. I would really love to know your guys' ideas, because, as I said, I've lived here all my life. There's still places I don't know about. But we are delving into strange phenomena worldwide now. I've had my year on YouTube, as I've mentioned before, and it's time to branch out and rebrand a little. So we're going to be looking at strange phenomena across the globe in future episodes. So if there are locations that maybe you visited on holiday, or you have relatives that live in another country and they've told you about it, or if you are from another country and you live in a location with a lot of weird goings on, then I would love to hear about it. So please don't hesitate to send me suggestions. And we have our second channel we'll be launching in a couple of days, and that is my Scary Story Narration channel. I decided to make a new channel just for that because I enjoyed reading stories for you guys so much during Halloween. and I love to read, and I'm also a writer. So until you guys start sending a few stories into me, I will be reading to you guys from some scary novels that I wrote a few years ago back on a little app called Wattpad. And I'm probably going to start writing again pretty soon as well, because I have so many ideas. I have a lot of exciting things coming up, but I'm going to keep it hush-hush for now. And I also want to give out another shout out to another one of my subscribers who has actually became a really great friend of mine, and that is to Shay Jansen, who celebrated her birthday last week, and I was invited to Shay's birthday party over the weekend. We had a really lovely dinner, and I met all of Shay's friends, and what an amazing group of people. I also met her family, and oh my God, just so lovely. And thank you, Shay, so much for inviting me and letting me be a part of that. So this is another part of YouTube that I really love. If you have the opportunity to meet some of your subscribers, you can also become friends with them. And that's going to be important for later, for something I have coming up very, very soon. I'm keeping it under wraps, so it's a surprise. But you guys are going to know what it is very soon. So please keep watching. Please keep giving me your likes, your shares, your comments, and your subscriptions. And let's just get into today's AUSX-File, Kalkajaka National Park. Kalkajaka National Park, or Black Mountain National Park, is located in northeast Australia, or far northeast Queensland. Black Mountain is also known as the Mountain of Death. It is located in the park and has been the location of numerous disappearances, paranormal activity, and Indigenous lore. This eerie pile of rock has also been dubbed Queensland's Bermuda Triangle. So, Kalkajaka National Park, and the Mountain of Death as it is known, is essentially a pile of thousands of black boulders. According to an article in Top 10s, the pile of boulders creates very deep channels beneath some areas of the mountain. This leads some to believe that there are labyrinths and passageways right through the mountain. So these very deep channels can produce some very eerie noises and bizarre wind patterns from the depths of the mountain. And it can be quite frightening if you don't know what it is and you are there trying to hike it, which I would not recommend, and you will see why later on. And it goes with respect to the traditional owners of this particular location in Australia. And also, hiking in the area is extremely dangerous, as a misstep can easily send you into one of these deep and rocky crevasses. And as always, it's Australia, so there are also a number of poisonous animals in the area. There are also a number of interesting and little seen animals in this area. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit about the flora and the fauna that are associated also with the park, because as I researched, I found that very interesting as well. And I'm hoping that I can find pictures of all these animals and things so I can pop them in here. I think will be particularly of interest to a lot of our international viewers, because I know a lot of you guys like to see the areas that I'm speaking of and also the animals, because it's interesting for you guys. And I like that when I'm watching videos from my friends from overseas as well who are on YouTube, and they show you like animals and places that you never really get to see if you're not able to travel, which I'm not at the moment. So I just like to be able to give back and share a little bit of what we have over here. So let's get into the animals and such that are actually living around Kalkajaka. So firstly, there is the Black Mountain skink, and it's endemic to the Black Mountain National Park. And within the 895 hectare area of the unusual environment lives 3 animals that can only be found at Kalkajaka National Park. So this makes Kalkajaka one of the most restricted habitat ranges of any Australian animal. So getting back to the Black Mountain skink, and it does have a biological name. I am not even going to try and pronounce it, so I'm just going to call it the Black Mountain skink. I cannot wrap my tongue around this. It's going to take 100 years. So the black mountain skink is a small lizard with long legs and a distinctive duckbill-like snout. And I think I saw a picture of it as I was researching it. It's quite cute. So hopefully I can pop one in here and you'll see that he is such a cute little guy. So this slender skink is black in the shade but glistens green in the sunlight. Its long limbs are flecked with yellow and a golden stripe runs down the length of its back. The skink is often seen basking or hunting over the mountain's rocks during the day, except for the hottest hours when it retreats to the boulder jumble, inside the boulder jumble. There is also a vulnerable black mountain boulder frog, and it is the largest of Australians' microlids, a group of frogs normally confined to the leaf litter of tropical rainforests. It's about the size of a walnut. This large-eyed and very cute frog lays its eggs on land rather than in water. An adult tends to the eggs and young, which hatch as fully formed froglets. And I'm dying of the cuteness right now because I know a lot of you all don't like frogs, but oh my God, I love frogs. Now, a few years back, I rescued a bunch of green frog eggs from my backyard pool. I got them into some nice fresh water. I hatched them out into little baby frogs. They were the cutest things ever, and I was like feeding them stuff. And then I left like a little, like I had a bucket and I had like rocks and like sticks and things that they could climb up. And then one day the bucket was empty and they'd all left me and gone on their way. But it was really cool to actually raise frogs from tadpoles. Oh, it was so cool. I loved it. So yes, I'm a frog lover. So this is like cuteness overload for me. The bright yellow female frog and the smaller mottled brown male are more easily heard than seen. Their call is a sharp tapping noise, and they have acquired an almost crab-like agility to scuttle on the granite boulders, although they can still disappear in a series of leaps when alarmed. At night, these frogs emerge to forage on the boulders of the mountain and in and about the scattered figs and the fringing monsoon forest. And the third restricted species is the vulnerable black mountain gecko. Active only at night, this mottled purplish-brown, large-eyed, extremely agile gecko is very elusive. The species is a form of the Aboriginal name for the mountain Kalkajaka, and this is also another name I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to pronounce, but I'm going to give it a crack. Kalkajaka. That's pretty cool, Kalkajaka. And it's a form of the Aboriginal name for the mountain Kalkajaka, so that's pretty cool that this little gecko is actually named after the mountain where it lives. There are several other species of rock-dwelling lizards on the mountain, of which the ring-tailed gecko, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that biological, it's too hard. The biological name is probably the most spectacular. Heavily banded with light and dark stripes, the species occurs at only a few other locations. So I did mention before that there are several poisonous animals in the area as well. And you will find that, as always with Australia, snakes are fairly common around and on the boulders and the rocks. And there are giant pythons, carpet pythons. Now, they've given me biological names, so I will try. So there is the giant amethystine pythons, Siamalia kinghorni, carpet pythons, Morelia spilota, spotted pythons, Antaresia maculosa, and getting into the very dangerous snakes, the northern death adders, oh gosh, these are really hard to pronounce, Acanthopus prolongus and brown tree snake, Boisia irregularis, and they are all found on Kalkajaka. So the blend of rainforest and open forest in the park support rich bird life as well. So if you are in the area overhead, look for black kites and milvus migrants flying leisurely with slow wing beats and glides. Above the boulders, look for near-threatened rare Australian swiftlets. When in dark caves and crevices, these birds use echolocation, emitting sharp clicks and using the echo that bounces back to navigate. In flight, they utter shrill, cheeping and squealing notes. And the Australian swiftlets are endemic to Queensland. They cannot be found in any other part of Australia. Kalkajaka is rich with mammal fauna as well. Mammals that inhabit the mountain include several species of native rodents, marsupial carnivores such as the endangered northern quoll. And I just have to talk about a quoll for a minute. These guys are so cute, as you can see by the picture, but they're quite an aggressive little animal, so cuddling is not recommended. But we actually had one under our house once, and I ended up calling him Chewy because I'd fallen asleep on the couch with the cat one night, and the cat's over near the sink one night, and it kind of growling and making unhappy cat noises, and I'm like, what is he doing? Because he woke me up and was like, oh my God, I fell asleep watching probably the X-Files, and the next thing I hear this weird noise coming out of my kitchen sink. Now, our kitchen sink, because we live in an old farmhouse, it's got a pipe that just goes straight down to where the drain empties out and it goes out to our soakage pit. So I'm hearing this noise that sounds like something going chewy, 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 but it was a lot scarier and more guttural than that. And I was like, oh my effing God, what is this? And it went on for a bit, and then I sort of heard all this commotion under the house, and then it stopped. And it happened for another couple of nights, and I spoke to a friend who's a bit of a wildlife expert, and they were like, oh, I think you had a quoll under your house. I didn't get to see him, but he let us know he was there. So, yeah, hopefully Chewy is still living his best life somewhere. I'm not sure how he came to be under our house in the area that we live in, but it was pretty cool, and I would love to have seen him. I don't think I would have loved to have cuddled him because they like to bite and scratch and they're quite aggressive, but I would love to have seen him. There are also a number of Godman's rock wallabies and numerous bats. There are at least 3 species of flying fox, the Queensland tube-nosed bat and the eastern blossom bat, and also the northern blossom bat, all which feed on fruits and nectar from the fringing monsoon forest. And they are all very common in this area. In addition, there are insect-eating bats which roost in the extensive cave-like formations, including species of horseshoe bats, sheath-tailed bats, bent-wing bats, little northern eastern free-tail bats, and the large-footed myotis bats. And they have also the minute Finlayson's cave bats, Australia's only true carnivorous bat. The ghost bat is also a resident of the mountain area. And this bat is the largest of the microbat species in Australia and is also considered vulnerable over most of its range. It is in reasonable numbers in Kalkajaka because the abundance of prey such as small insectivorous bats, lizards and frogs are in plentiful surprise. So that's a little bit spooky, all the bats living in the mountain. But there is another animal of legend that is also reported to be living in good health in Kalkajaka. So there have been numerous sightings of the Queensland tiger, allegedly a resident of the mountain. This animal has been attributed to the death and mauling of cattle in the Cooktown area. Interestingly, the tiger is described as a large striped cat, closely resembling the marsupial lion. Here we go again with the biological names. Thylacoleo carnifex. I did it! Yay! Which inhabited Queensland until 20,000 years ago, and it is believed to have become extinct. I did it. So there is also the Tasmanian tiger that is supposed to be exclusively to Tasmania, also known as a thylacine. So could there be a northeast Queensland version of a thylacine? because they did say tiger, they didn't say lion. So I'd be interested to know if there is in fact a version of that up there in Queensland. You never know. It's an mostly unexplored area. So now we get into the plant species that is endemic to the area. So this apparently barren landscape supports a surprisingly large range of animals and plants, which are specially adapted to the very unusual environment. The green patches on the otherwise bare mountainsides are large fig trees, and seedlings are able to establish themselves in rock crevices, extending long roots to draw water and dissolve nutrients from deep within the mountain. Around the base of the mountain are a number of plants normally found in the rainforest. Self-mulching ferns, umbrella trees, and stinging trees have adapted to these very different conditions. The monsoon forest, technically known as a semi-deciduous mesophyll vine forest, grows around the edges of the rock masses. This vegetation is a haven for animals that venture from or to the rocky shelter of the mountain. So that's a little bit on the local flora and fauna only found in Kalkajaka. Now we're going to move on. And we're going to get into the spooky side of Kalkajaka. So the mountain has been reported to cause navigational equipment on planes to fail. Much like the Bermuda Triangle, some believe there is some strange magnetic phenomenon occurring in the area. In addition, there have been reports of very strange turbulence over the mountain, causing pilots to avoid the area like the plague. The most prominent phenomenon is the high number of disappearances. People climb the mountain and are never seen again. Only one body of a reported disappearance on the mountain was ever recovered. Of course, the most likely scenario is that they fell into the depths of the mountain, but it's still extremely frightening prospect to think of. So multiple campers have reported very strange sounds and encounters with shadow figures. There are stories from the indigenous populations about spirits haunting the area. These stories include a flesh-eating spirit who has lived atop the mountain, as well as bad juju created by tribal battles in the area. But you can form your own opinion on what might be going on here. Regardless of whether or not anything paranormal is going on, it would be a good idea to avoid the Mountain of Death. And not just because we have vulnerable species there and there are very poisonous snakes, but because it is considered by the traditional indigenous owners of this land as sacred ground. And that puts it in the same category as Uluru. So, to the indigenous traditional owners, Kalkajaka is a sacred battlefield of both spirits and warring clan groups. To tourists, Kalkajaka is Black Mountain, an eerie and striking landform along with the Trevathan Range that many feel compelled to stop at on their drive from Mariba to Cooktown. So the mass of massive granite boulders towers over the landscape, a black and barren sight in stark contrast to the scrubby green savanna below. And as we've been exploring, Black Mountain is a place of mystery and legend to the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people alike. And as we said before, it has been dubbed the Bermuda Triangle of Far North Queensland. And this dates back to stories that have come out of the late 1800s of people, horses, and entire mobs of cattle disappearing. So now we're going to get into a little bit of a timeline of the disappearances. And then with respect, I'm going to explain a little bit more about why it is so significant to the traditional custodial owners of the land. So the timeline of disappearances is as follows. In July 1872, a courier named Philip Grainer goes out looking for a stray calf. He and his horse and the calf are never seen again. And around 1800, a notorious criminal called Sugarfoot Jack and his accomplices flee to Black Mountain following a shootout. They are never seen again, despite an exhaustive police search. November 1882, two cattlemen, Harry Owens and George Hawkins, also disappear while looking for stray cattle around Black Mountain, as does one of the police trackers searching for the missing men. A second tracker returns completely unhinged and unable to provide a coherent report. In 1890, a constable named Ryan tracks a fugitive to a cave at Kalkajaka. He enters to see if the fugitive may be hiding inside, according to those present. He never came back out. 1892, prospector James Wren vanishes while fossicking at Black Mountain. In 1920, two young explorers determined to solve the mysterious disappearances also go missing, along with some of the trackers who went looking for them. 1928, prospector Q. Parker goes missing, also while fossicking at Black Mountain. His body is later found next to his rifle with a bullet wound to his head. 1932, traveller Harry Page goes missing while hiking on Black Mountain and was later found dead from unknown causes. So it did say earlier in the research that only one body was ever found, but that's a fair body count that I've just explained that were found. So I would say, like, there's probably a lot of people that just don't ever come back, but there's, they have found a few. So now I'm going to get into why this place is so special and so revered by the traditional custodial owners of the land. And this comes from one of the tribal members up there, and his name is Harold Ludwig, and he descends from two clans with traditional ownership claims to the site. The Western Little... And I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing these correctly, so please don't roast me if I'm not. I have trouble speaking English on the best of days. So I'm going to do my best, okay? He is from the Western Yalinji and Gugu Yimathur. He is said Kalkajaka, which means spear, was a sacred battlefield and the scene of the last spear fight between the black and white cockatoo. These are the totems representing the inland and the coastal clans whose warriors were clashing over the hunting grounds. And Mr. Ludwig would go on to say, they came to blows and many people died, and their bones are also remaining in the mountains. They were put in there, he said. He would also go on to explain that the way that Gallipoli is significant for the veterans of that particular battle, that is what Kalkajaka is like for the local Indigenous owners of the land. It is as a significant place as Gallipoli is for many of us. That's what Kalkajaka is to the tribes that inhabit the area. So an oral history that he has been taught is that another war was waged at Kalkajaka between spirits in ancient times. And this fight was between two brothers who were giants and were in love with the same woman. They made piles out of stones, those granite boulders that are there today, Mr. Ludwig said. And when they threw each other a rock, they killed. And when they each threw a rock, they killed each other, but their pile of stones still remains there. Mr. Ludwig believes in Black Mountain's dark forces, which is why he warns people not to enter this site, a mistake his friend from Sydney made during a visit. I told him, don't go in there, because I know there's a boar aground, but he was headstrong and he wanted to go, Mr. Ludwig recalls. So he would go on to say about his friend that after being in that place, he got home and was tormented by what he said were devils and spirits. After he got better, 3 or 4 months later, he came back and said to me, I know I've done something wrong on Cape York. Mr. Ludwig would reply, bloody oath you did, and I told you. Like Uluru, climbing Kalkajaka is hurtful to the various traditional owner groups. The Kuku Yalanji, Kuku, Nungakul, sorry if that's wrong, Nungakul, and the Gugu Yimathia. So sorry if I'm not pronouncing these correctly. I'm doing my best, I promise. And then we hear from another elder of the traditional people, Auntie Mary Shipton, and she is a Kuku Nyungle woman. Kalkajaka is her great-grandmother's country. As a small child, she was taught to respect the site and gets angry when tourists enter without permission or guidance. And this is totally understandable. You know, this is a sacred site to these people. It has a lot of significance for them. And I have to agree, don't come for me, this is just my opinion, but honestly, it's like walking into somebody's home or coming into somebody's yard. Anybody's home or property, you really do need to ask permission first and be very respectful while you're asking. And if they tell you, no, you can't come here, please listen, because they're telling you this for a reason. So Auntie Marie would go on to say, it's hard to tell them. They want to discover the country, but they don't really know what's there. She would also say a lot of people don't respect our culture, and she is right about that. We see a lot of non-Indigenous people and they think they know about sacred sites, but they should show respect to the Indigenous people by not walking on their country. And especially if it's like our first Aboriginal storyteller said, that there are in fact bones of their people buried within the mountain. It is actually tantamount to a grave site, which does need to be treated with a lot of respect. So for Auntie Shipton, she would say, for me, it's a sacred site and no one is allowed to go to that area. And if they do, they will get very, very sick. And she also says that she feels bad about it because she knows they're heading straight into bad vibes and bad juju there. Mr. Ludwig echoed Auntie Shipton's warnings. He would go on to say, it touches your soul. To respect it, that is the most important thing. To disrespect it is something that will haunt you forever. And the people that have disrespected it, he believes, are being tormented by the spirits of our ancestors, and this is something that you don't want to mess around with. And I'd have to agree with him on that. I've seen what happens when people go somewhere and they shouldn't. The aftermath usually isn't very good. They tell you not to muck around with an Ouija board. Well, this is the same. You muck around with the spirits and something is going to happen. In our boras, spirits appear to us. It's not just a fairy tale, it's real. You see these things and they come to you. Science and the supernatural make this spooky site very unique. So we move on to a recount by Gavin Deer, who is a world-renowned geologist, and Kalkajaka is his noisy next-door neighbour. So Gavin Deer lives on a property neighbouring Kalkajaka and says the landform has immense scientific and supernatural interest. It can make random explosive noises when the onion skin weathering of the giant boulders occurs. You hear these big cracks and tumbles, Mr. Deer said. At night, you can hear the wind going through the boulders and it sounds like howling souls trapped inside. And that would be a pretty spooky thing to hear, especially if you weren't used to it, as Mr. Deer is. And I think it kind of spooks him a little bit still too. Mr. Deer is well-versed in the mountain's mythology and has debunked many of the wilder theories around mystery energy fields. He would say, I've tested it myself with compasses and it's rubbish, apparently, according to him. I've talked to helicopter pilots who fly over it and they say that they're fine. So one theory is it was a man-made pyramid. It's one of those meridian points and that it's on one of those meridian points of the planet. And if you're not sure what a meridian point is, it's where lines intersect on the planet. And I think, well, as I know, in the paranormal field, they are also known as ley lines. And where there are ley lines, it's said to be there is the most supernatural or paranormal activity going on. And I have to say, the town that I live in, or the area that I live in, like the entire valley, is on ley lines, and the town that I come from is right on a ley line. And there is a lot of activity there. So there may be something to the ley lines. I could even do another video just on ley lines. It's amazing, the mythology and the beliefs surrounding ley lines and energy fields, and how spirits and other things can use it to travel. So we might do a video on that one day. I think that would be interesting. And he also says that's a big one that you'll find here on YouTube. We've had numerous people want to come up and camp near it to gather the energy. The avid adventurer said the legendary disappearances were more to do with mishap than mystery. He'll tell you if you try and climb to the top, you've got about 200 calculated leaps you have to make between boulders. If you have a knee fail or you slip, you can tumble down there and you will just not come out. So Kalkajaka is probably best viewed in pictures and drone shots that other people have gotten around the place. I wouldn't recommend going there for a hike anytime soon. But even this man of science admits to believing Black Mountain has a supernatural presence. No matter how rational I am, I'm always doing my best not to piss off the mountain. Mr. D would also say, for me, I grew up Catholic and I've got that superstitious background as well. So be prepared also means being culturally aware on the country. And the Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service also advises tourists and hikers to be properly prepared when entering its parks, but no specific advice about cultural protocols, which they probably should include because people really need to know these things. So I'm trying so hard to pronounce all these correctly, guys. No disrespect to our Indigenous people. If I'm saying them wrong, I'm trying. So the Jabalimba Yalanji Aboriginal Corporation chairperson Desmond Taylor said tourists should look out for signage and take Aboriginal guided tours when visiting the country. Communities like Mossman and the Wudjal Wudjal offer guided tours where you get to walk the country with a traditional owner who can tell you the stories of what makes the sites so significant, which I think would be a lot better because then you would get like their side of the story concerning all the Dreamtime mythology and history of the place, and I think it'd just be really cool. I myself actually really love listening to the Indigenous experts and especially the elders telling their stories because I really think they're amazing. So by taking a tour, you are not only learning about the country, but creating jobs which helps build the economy in the communities. There are different protocols for researchers and film crews who need to apply for a permit to visiting Indigenous lands, including the national parks. And as incredibly spooky and eerie as Kalkajaka might be, could there be a scientific or rational explanation for the seemingly strange occurrences and disappearances over the years? So there was some new research that was trying to debunk the mystery of the Black Mountain disappearances. So new research in Australia reportedly indicated that such disappearances in Black Mountain, as our geologist expert also said, can be explained based on reality and real-world causes. Furthermore, the research claimed it has resolved the mysterious incidents of the disappearances in Black Mountain. So the research team behind the recent discovery uncovered the mystery behind the Kalkajaka disappearances and debunking some of the long-held notions surrounding the myths of the mountain. So according to Bev Shea, a Cooktown-based historian and the new research proponent, as per Newsnet Daily, the new research elaborated there are several scientific factors that make the disappearances likely. These factors include the remoteness of Kalkajaka, the presence of crocodiles in the area, intoxication due to alcohol consumption. However, just on that point, there is no proof that anybody who went up the mountain, and especially back to the 1800s, where's the proof that anybody had consumed alcohol? So I'm not sure they can completely debunk it with that. They also say the lack of swimming skills and incidents of foul play, also none of which we have anything to back up. So have they debunked it or have they not? For me, I don't think that's a complete debunking because You can't prove that people couldn't swim. You can't prove that there was a crocodile present. You can't prove there was alcohol present. So I'm on the fence about the debunking, but make of that what you will. Even with this neat explanation, reports of strange occurrences and even UFO sightings continue to swirl around Kalkajaka. Kalkajaka has been associated with UFO activity for many years. Many people have reported seeing UFOs in the area of the mountain, as well as seeing strange lights. In fact, it is believed by many that underground passages beneath boulders could be potentially holding an alien base, or could even be the home of a lost civilization, or there could be even ancient tombs in there. Another common theory is that lost treasures could be hidden down in the passages and caves. The treasures could consist of gold, ancient artifacts, or even old texts. One expedition to Black Mountain was so terrifying for two men that one of them actually wrote an article about his experience, and this was only back in 2001. So in 2001, two men named Ivan and Danny decided to camp out one night at the bottom of the mountain. While they were setting up their campsite, they noticed that it was unusually quiet, with absolutely no sounds of animals or birds, and that's pretty unheard of, especially in the wilderness. While the two men were sleeping in their tents, they were awakened by the sounds of crumbling rocks that sounded like someone or something was climbing out of the mountain towards them. The footsteps kept getting louder and closer, so both men ran outside to scare away whoever was trying to bother them. However, when they saw what was out there, something completely out of the ordinary and something neither of them expected. The two men would go on to say they witnessed a large black mass coming straight toward them. The black mass was moving slowly when it suddenly evaporated and vanished into thin air. Immediately after the black mass disappeared, the men started hearing the sounds of the animals and everything returned to normal. The men, however, were horrified at what they had just witnessed and immediately left the location. In the end, Black Mountain is full of mystery and the dark, eerie boulders that hold many secrets of the countless lost souls who have visited the area and never to return home. With the mountain plagued by so much mystery, visitors are encouraged to keep their distance. But there is a lookout off the road a short distance away, and that's where many people will view the mountain from a safe distance away, and away from the creepy unknown forces that reside on and beneath Kalkajaka, the mountain of death. And that is where we leave this mysterious and sacred part of far north Queensland. And just on like the birds and things going quiet, well, before the men witnessed this black mass they report to have seen. As we know, we've explored, and you'll know if you watch a lot of strange phenomena here on YouTube, that one of the biggest giveaways, if you're out in the woods or everything just goes silent, there's no bird noise, there's no animals, it's nearly like the wind stops and everything just stops. And that's always when you have people reporting they think they were stalked by maybe a yowie, or if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, places like that, a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot or a Wendigo or a flesh pedestrian. And I know you know what I mean by that, and I am not saying their name. It's flesh pedestrian. Because we do have flesh pedestrians in Australia too. Don't you worry about that. They're over here. Oh, yeah. So it's always a widely viewed and agreed upon consensus that if there's something a little strange around or dangerous in the woods, and that goes for like bobcats and things too, everything's going to, be quiet, or wild boars and things. Bobcats, wild boars, any big predator, all the animals are going to fall silent when they're around too. So if you are out for a hike anywhere really, and there's even people have agreed if there's been like bad people around too, the animals and everything know this, they can sense it, and they'll fall silent. So if you're out for a hike or you're in an area you're not familiar with and everything goes silent, please pay attention to that, because they're trying to tell you something. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this spooky recount of Black Mountain, or by its proper Indigenous name, Kalkajaka. I won't be going there for a visit anytime soon, but I think I would like to try and find a few more documentaries and things on it, because it's really piqued my interest, especially with spooky stories. As you know, I'm a paranormal investigator as well, and I tend to go the route of the unsolved mysteries, and I mean, the Dreamtime stories have to come from somewhere, and there are a lot of weird things going on up there, and there are a lot of people who have never been found, and I really don't think the research can explain it away entirely. But it's up to you what you believe. Make of Kalkajaka what you will. In any circumstance, though, it is an extremely interesting part of far north Queensland, and does deserve all the respect and the love that the Aboriginal people who reside in the area and have looked after this mountain since the beginning of time place on it. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It's so good to be back doing some AUSX-Files. I really missed it. I love Strange Phenomenon. It's so much fun. And thanks again to Sideshow Rupert for suggesting today's video. Have a beautiful rest of your day, everybody. Stay safe, and I will see you back here very, very soon in my next video. Bye for now.